Well, I'm senior intellectual Bruce Michael Bongo, and indeed, you have to state categorically that we've had several revolutions across the world. Some have been very successful, and some were cut short. Now, to the Gen Zs and millennials of Kenya, I would say that your self-immolation has seriously struck the chords of the young people in this country, Kenya, and across the world, to an extent that today we do have several uprisings and eruptions across the continent, north of Limpopo and south of Sahara, Uganda, Nigeria, Ghana, and the rest of the countries. Youths of like-minded ideologies are coming up to fight for political, social, and economic reforms in their countries. The end game is that Ruto must go home. Ruto must go, and immediately we have to transition into what we call absolute democracy that we want. And we also know that revolutions come with all shapes and sizes. We were not on the streets picketing. We were not on the streets dying. We were not on the streets being shot at for any kind of a handshake between William Ruto and Raila Odinga. One thing that you have to know categorically is that we are going to soldier on to ensure that this toxic system is out of place. This toxic system that has seriously ensured that even our own ancestral lands are taxed. We must get rid of it, and we must also ensure that we do ensure that we remove the very fabric, social fabrics that supports this kind of punitive system in Kenya. We do have demarcated boundaries for both the government and the opposition of Kenya. And we, as the millennials and Gen Zs, we do not have any mouthpiece in form of any of them completely. Because when you talk to us about dialogue, what are we dialoguing? Why do you want to spend public coffers on these kind of things? We cannot talk about spending any more money on whichever dialogue whatsoever. We do not want any dialogue. William Ruto, you went into power knowing that you had the prowess to lead the populace of Kenya. So by the point of saying that you need a dialogue on how to redirect this country to the right trajectory, it therefore shows that you do not have the acumenship, the power, and the intellect to drive this country called Kenya forward. Then you just leave the office immediately, because we've got so many men of great standing in our populace to be on that seat where you are. We do not need any dialogue for Linda Mama to come back. We do not need any dialogue for the university's fees to be reduced back to how it was. We do not need any dialogue for us to reinstate a proper education. We do not need any dialogue for proper health care. We do not need any dialogue whatsoever to remove the fee that has been put on the ID cards. We do not need any dialogue for you to ensure that we have proper governance in this country. There is no dialogue. And one thing that we must put into fore right now is that Raila Odinga should better focus on his African Union chairmanship bid and his route to Canaan. Leave the Gen Z and millennial matters to us. We know how we are handling it, and we are not going to take any point of advice from you people. We've had enough of this. We've had enough of these leaders. All the people that you want to talk to us are the same people who were in leadership before. Kalonzo Musyoka was the former vice president. He did nothing about the plight of the youth in this country. We cannot remember him even for one bill in parliament advocating for the social justice of Kenyan citizenry. The same to our former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. He was there. He should have used his own airtime very well and his office very well to capture all these issues, the grievances that the Gen Zs have today. We are not going to follow anybody. What we saw yesterday was the billionaires club from opposition and the government, who are now coming to guard themselves of all the looted money that they've had so far. We are united as Kenyans, the poor people who are suffering, the poor people who are looking into the future. We want our future. You have your future. If Kenya burns today, all these leaders will run away. All these leaders will find their heaven somewhere in Europe. But with us, we will stay here and languish in poverty. We are not going to take this kneeling down. We do not need any dialogue for William Ruto to wake up. The point is one, William Ruto must go home. And William Ruto, we are telling you that even if you call Raila Amolo Odinga to come for your salvation right now, you are not going to make it. Even if you call Kalonzo Musyoka to help you, you are going to dive. Even if you resurrect Mr. Moi from his grave to come and help you, William Ruto, you are not going to make it here in Kenya. Time is up. Leave the office. We've got several Kenyan aboriginals who are able to drive this country forward. Yes. We are not going to accept any kind of a negotiation. Were we negotiating for any dowry? No. We don't want to negotiate. This is a revolution. In a revolution, we also know that we have racketeers, the people like Osama. We also have people who like to take advantage, the party of ODM. Leave this matter to us. You never sent us on the streets, and we must ensure that we win this battle moving forward. One thing that we must state and carefully is that we are fighting so hard to reshape the image of our country, Kenya, amongst the world nations. And we know very well that countries like the United States of America, Haiti, and France are all the products of the 18th century revolutions, which was caused by the young men who fought so hard for their countries to be what they are today. What we have to ensure right now moving forward is that we get rid of the toxic errant leaders that we've had across Africa, and William Ruto in particular here in Kenya, so that we transition to a system where there is no poverty, there is no discrimination, inequality, and corruption. And moving on, we want to assure every other populace alive that we are not masters of chaos. Gen Zs and millennials are not masters of chaos and disorder. And as we know very well, that in any country where there is hunger, in any country where there is unequal unemployment, in any country where there is corruption, it must be faced with what is called uprising. So the Gen Zs are not masters of disorder and these kind of issues that you put around us. The other thing that you must have to put into fore is that in our country, Kenya, the youths, the Gen Zs and the millennials are hereby having grievances put on the political front. Like for political front, for example, we do not need more bureaucracies on IEBC matters. We don't want that. Why is it that we have an ID card and then you go ahead and fleece the public coffers all in the name of warranting the issues of voter cards? Just in the last election, Kenyans lost over 7 billion shillings just in the printing of this ballot, the voter's card. We do not want that. We want these things to be as simple as they can be in this country. The other thing that we must address today is the economic reforms that we want. We cannot be in a country where poverty is the order of the day. And currently we have the issues of deflation of the Gen Z and millennials revolution, whereby there is a high censorship in the media houses. What was done to KTN was very wrong. The Standard Media Group, just because they aired what transpired in the National Assembly, Kenya's parliament, when the youth, the Gen Zs and millennials took over. That was the power of the people. And that is the sound of God. Exactly. The other thing that we also have to put in focus is coercion and intimidation of the government. We have seen several activists, people like Osama. Osama was coerced after being arrested, and he went to dine with the president the other side. People like Robert Alai and the rest. These are people who have sabotaged this revolution, and we are not going to take that kneeling down. The other thing that you have to know is that we, the undermanned Gen Zs and millennials, we are surely focused on the prize, and the prize is to get Ruto out of office. We want to talk to the Kenya military. This is the high time, because you know that you're the last resort for the dictator William Samoei Arap Ruto, the president of Kenya. It is high time you live true to the code of a true citizen of a republic. Do what the Tunisian military did. The Kenya military should do what the Tunisian military did by siding with the civilians, because this country is ours. And before you know it, we want to just assure the Gen Zs that our eyes are set on the prize to get rid of this government plus all its structures. We were not fighting for any handshake. And that is one thing that must be recorded completely. We do not want any handshake with anybody. We want to get rid of this system. We know very well what happened here in the year 2018 during the handshake. We had serious issues, economic issues, that really brought about much of unemployment. We are not ready to go there again. We were not sent on the streets by any political party leader. The Gen Z revolution, the Gen Z and millennials revolution has eclipsed all the political parties in Africa. It is bigger than ODM. It is bigger than UDA. It is bigger than KANU. It is bigger than ANC of South Africa and Chama cha Mapinduzi of Tanzania. And that is what we mean. Our revolution is focused simply on good governance. And that is exactly what we want. We are not interested about power sharing whatsoever. We are more interested in how Kenya can move from lower echelons to higher echelons and get to the top of the ladder, so that the youth of this country can get jobs, so that the young ones, our generations, can get a future. That is what we want. We know very well we were actually treated to a drama of the Billionaires Club in Kenya. The Billionaires Club is a mixture of both the opposition and the government. No one should talk on our behalf. Nobody, be it Raila Amolo Odinga, be it William Ruto, be it Kalonzo Musyoka. We don't have any leader whatsoever. And we don't want any leader. When you go there, address yourselves. We know very well where the billions of this country are. Much overseas. So when you see the Gen Zs and the millennials coming out to get their rights, then this is the right time for these leaders, both on the government and the opposition, to now come together to ensure that they take cover over the properties that they looted from the common people. It is very wrong. What we saw yesterday was a handshake between Judas Iscariot, Kitendawili, and Zakayo. And we are not going to take that. The rationale behind all this is that we cannot have a stooge in the opposition and have another stooge in government as the president. We are not going to succumb to that. This country must be kept off any other leader who would want to sell it to the United States of America. And we are not going to be ruled by laws made in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has got America. There, let these laws work in America. Let aboriginals of Kenyan citizenry put their own laws into force that will work for them. Whenever we see Junet Mohammed behind Raila Amolo Odinga, we know that the deal is very bad for this country. it is a very egocentric kind of a trajectory that we cannot allow. And therefore we put it categorically that we are going for another demonstration tomorrow. We are going to see the grandmother of all demos tomorrow. And you will know that this country is bigger than the government and the opposition altogether. That is the reality, and we are not going to allow any kind of a coercion or intimidation whatsoever. You call us whichever names, we are not going to still succumb. We've seen extrajudicial killings in this matter. Our young people, Rex Masai, have died. What moral ground do you have? Shaking hands, call yourselves fathers of a nation. And we are here still mourning our own. So many of us, the journalists, young people are being abducted right, left, and center. It is very wrong. We are not going to take this anymore. And we have to also ensure that come 2027, the Gen Zs and the millennials are going to put forward their own strategic party that is going to fight for their rights regardless of tribe. We do not want the idea anymore of two people holding hands. This was our war. We were not sent to this revolution by ODM or UDA or whichever person on earth. We are not going to take that anymore. Thank you.
You are watching Media One International, always fast and fast. Like, share, and subscribe.